Listen and subscribe to the Table of Truth on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. Welcome, everybody, to Blerdlines. This is your man, Cam. With me, as always, is...
the other Cam, the last actually Negro, the Wokokaji, the most respected hater on the planet Earth and the galaxy.
As well as...
Hey, yo, this is Josh, a.k.a. the Dark Lord of the Caribbean Sith, known as Dark Coconut.
And always trying to keep us a little bit more villainy.
This is Lord Professor D of the House Morgoth, second of my name, speaker of the nerds, scourge of imbeciles, and breaker of pop culture and mediocre chains.
And we are back talking about The Mandalorian Season 3. Is there 3 now? It's
Yeah.
the third one, right?
Seasons, the third season. Yep.
Feels like more.
Yeah, feels like more. But, it just wrapped up. We're a little bit late, but we here. And we wanted to make sure we got to chime in. And what's arguably the best Star Wars show, mini franchise out of the group of it.
Anything is the word.
I would argue that we're 3.5 seasons in because the Book of Boba Fett was basically Mando in the second season.
Stop that. We don't acknowledge that. We don't acknowledge that at all.
Ironically, it probably, we don't, but at the same time, it was.
True.
It was Mandalorian 1.5, or whatever, 2.5.
Yeah. He was in 3 episodes, 2 episodes.
Unless
Yeah.
Boba Fett comes back and turns into, because he turned Galaxy Muslim. If he stops becoming a Galaxy Muslim and go back to the ruthless Boba Fett that we have an idea we should know and love, then then maybe I'll give him some
Peace and love, brother. Peace and love. Would you like
Peace and love. No, don't kill them. I'm gonna go back to my back to tank.
But anyway, back to Jaren.
So we're back. Mando this season brought in a lot of characters of favor or brought some folks in that we all know and love. Shout outs to the Queen Kate Sackhoff. Once again, she revels in her geekdom as much as she always does.
Oh yeah, man. And you should see her on Instagram. She is all in.
She's in it. Yeah.
From every moment.
Hams it all up.
Yeah, she just loves being Bo-Katan probably more than any other actor.
Yeah, more than she enjoyed being Starbucks, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, definitely more.
And that's not to undersell how much she seemed to enjoy being Starbucks.
Wait, hold on. What was she in before?
Battlestar Galactica.
Okay, so I didn't watch that, so I didn't catch her.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
no, you need that.
No, I need to watch it. It's on my list. It's just one of those things I have not gotten to yet.
No, I get it. We all have those, for sure.
Yeah. I was out where you were, Cam, a few years ago. Hadn't seen it. Josh hounded me until I watched that, and B5 and Battleline 5 were the pressing points of. I had to watch those things.
Yes.
I ended up watching Battlestar Galactica, and yes, Katie Sackhoff was that was where she kind of really broke into, got noticed as as the sci-fi nerd queen, because she was a scream queen previously to that, because she was in a couple horror films and stuff like that. But she's super enthusiastic on. And I didn't even know that they expanded her role as much because I started watching after, I think, you, Josh, and maybe after you Cam, this season. And I had no idea that she had played such a big role. But what I thought was really good, and it's such balance, and it's if there is any reason why I would change my mind about a show like Mandalorian being nominated when it comes to Emmy consideration, for something other than obviously makeup and set design and things like that. It's because of the consistency in the storytelling. They work those 8 episodes and they do them well, and it's just a testament that less is more sometimes when you can get 8 arcs and they're not even always full 60 minutes. In fact, they're normally only about 42 minutes. And they manage to tell strong, solid beginning, middle, and end in that keeps you interested. I think Mandalorian is the one show that after I catch up and there's more to go, I actually look forward to the next episode the following week, because I it feels like a big world. They, whether it's because Jin Darin is moving around a lot or whatever it is, the scale of Star Wars is felt in this series more than in most of the films, and definitely more than a lot of the other series.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that. They really only, I don't think there's much to complain about. There's one episode that just absolutely made no sense the way that they did it. It's not that the episode itself didn't make sense. There was a lot of moving parts to the episode, but I'm talking with D'Angelo. I kind of felt like it should have been broken up into subplot. I'm talking about episode 3, the episode where they go after Dr. What's his face? I forget the character's name, but
it's from his point of view. It's from the point of view of the former
Imperial scientist.
Yeah.
And so I forget. I'm spazzing on his name, but he basically was the guy who was going to work on extracting midichlorians from Grogu in season 1. I think in the first episode.
Yeah, I think it was
the first episode.
Yeah. So he's now for people who may not remember, he's now in like a rehabilitation colony for former Imperials, and it's the whole episode, and it could have just been broken up into subplot throughout the season. You could have broken that up into 8 parts, subplot,
over to the whole thing.
One scene each episode, like it didn't need
it didn't need a whole episode to be.
Yeah, and I remember early, because I didn't, I waited till episode 4 to start, and I remember you guys, that was your early complaint. Like you guys were like, "Yo, it comes out with a bang," and then all of a sudden, it kind of just like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, I think Josh and I both had the same reaction. Where I think when he texts me or I text him or at a different time, and we were like, what is happening? Like what? Yeah. Like what? It's a rarity where any of us on this podcast where we watch something and we just go, what is happening? Like what am I watching and why am I watching it? And it's another classic example of sometimes it's how you tell a story, not necessarily what the story that's being told. Because I think the other part of that was it doesn't square with what we know about. To me, they depicted the New Republic as sort of this pseudo uber bureaucratic, almost totalitarian, not totalitarian. I'm looking for a different type of it's overly bureaucratic, and
they're kind of a feckless bureaucracy. Yeah,
exactly. And while it does work for getting us to that spectrum where we know it's going from the sequel trilogy, because clearly the New Republic was so ineffective that they had an army called the Resistance versus the First Order, which the whole thing was, how the hell does the Empire fall? That was the last thing we saw, and now all of a sudden they're more powerful than this New Republic.
Right.
So they're trying to bridge that gap, but I don't think so right now it's working as successful as they wanted to, because again, that overly bureaucratic New Republic means that everything that the rebels fought for, everything that the Jedis that the Jedis were destroyed over,
died for,
it still exists within in that structure, which was the bureaucracy, the fecklessness, the stagnation, the seemingly inability to, like Palpatine once said, I had, when he was Sidious, I had the Senate bogged down in procedures. They can't move anything because it's all a filibuster. So that still being there to me means that, okay, Leia, Han, all those folks, they finished the work and they just went off somewhere.
That was the thing.
They didn't try to establish anything.
Yeah, that was the thing I was like going to say too. Is it's like it felt like, yay, we beat the Empire. All right, we go home.
Emperor's dead, and okay, whatever.
They just let everyone they just, Wild Wild West it kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and so it sounded it to me, it leaves the door wide open to make the connection between Thrawn and organizing the First Order into a proper army that goes about the business of trying to take everything back.
Yep, I can see that. I can
That's
definitely.
the obvious play.
And that's the silver lining, right? Like we're struggling in how we tell that, especially because that exists outside of the Mandalorian main storyline. Like the Shadow Council, the Imperial Remnant, like that's something that's sort of building on the margin and kind of pushing its way toward the center. With, obviously we got a little bit closer to it with wrapping up the Moff Gideon saga. But we're still not quite there yet, right? The Shadow Council is nowhere close to ready to reveal itself. They're waiting on the arrival of Thrawn and this fleet that he has at his back, and obviously that's the Chekhov gun of the Mandalorian, right? Is carrying over to Ahsoka. Now Thrawn's name has been mentioned, which means that he will and has to appear by hook or crook. So the setup was great. They stumbled along the way, I think, with that New Republic stuff. So hopefully they clean that up next season.
Now, where does it go from here? Because our next anticipation is going to be Ahsoka, just because we got Thrawn coming in, and we got more Star Wars Rebels characters already getting casted in there as well, which is super dope. So for Mando, it's already kind of established itself as kind of the best, arguably the best. We'll put Andor there as well. Now, where do you think they should go, actually? Because they've kind of established the one good thing about Mando, and this is what made Obi-Wan and freaking Boba Fett ineffective, was just that Mando was already there and expanded on it, and then still had touch points to the old stuff, but kept moving forward. Where Boba Fett, like you said, Muslim Boba Fett was just kind of like meh, and then Obi-Wan was like a story that, again, parts of it were cool, but we didn't need it. Like if you didn't watch Obi-Wan, you would not be missing anything besides OD Vader doing some cool shit and a cool black Force user. But it did take out Boba Fett and Boba Fett, you kind of need those Mando episodes, but other than that, you don't read the bulk of the series to know about the story.
Series
but Mando is pushing the mythos along, I think. So where is Mando now?
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Let me backtrack a little bit. I would say one of the main things about Obi-Wan is that the whole direction of the series, in my opinion, should have just been revolved around Obi-Wan and not Luke Skywalker, because Obi-Wan was a pivotal character throughout the whole story of the Skywalker saga. He was everywhere. He was like basically the Forrest Gump of the Star Wars galaxy, right? He's had a hand or some type of iteration in big and minor moments. Anyways, I think both Obi-Wan and Book of Mando, Book of Boba Fett. The thing about Boba Fett is that there wasn't too much detail on Boba Fett outside of canon comics and stuff related to it outside of the movie. So there wasn't much to go on. And I think the people who ran that show really dropped the ball on creating something special, because I had no impressions of Boba Fett outside of that one scene when he got swallowed by the Sarlacc and how ruthless he was. And sometimes in the old his father, Jango Fett, he was kind of ruthless or whatever, but outside of that, there wasn't much to go on. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the writers kind of dropped the ball on that. That's just my opinion, and it failed miserably. Obi-Wan was fan service at its highlight, so whatever. It's cool.
Yeah.
Boba Fett was that too.
I didn't know much.
Was fan service because that character had no business having. I've said this before. I don't care what people think, what Star Wars fans think. There was no reason for that character to be yanked out of obscurity. Facts. And given its whole show.
Again, you're 100% right. He was a minor character.
Yeah.
Now, Mandalorians are a pivotal character as a whole.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
as we fast forward, you're asking what is the direction? I think it's going to be Rebels. Thrawn is. I watch Rebels. Rebels and Thrawn are interchangeable. All right, yeah, they're together. Intertwined. Excuse me. For lack of a better term, I can't think right now, but intertwined. So
technically, all that stuff
it's
has
already
happened.
Yeah.
In the Mandalorian world, like the stuff of the events of Rebels has already taken place.
So we had, and they gave us clues, the whales, and then I saw, what was the guy who's familiar with the character in Rebels? That's the creature, the monster, and the crew.
Oh,
Zab
the big
or
dude, right?
Zarb or something. Once I saw him in the live action Mando, I was like, whoa. I was like, all right. I was like, we're really actually getting Rebels. And the other clue was
what, you talking about the big Mandalorian?
No, the blue creature in the bar.
The blue,
he's a crew member. He's a crew member from Rebels.
Crew member in Rebels.
That's him. And I was like, oh snap! What I didn't realize I didn't really pay too close of attention to the Ahsoka trailer, but the Ahsoka trailer basically confirmed Rebels is there. All the characters are in that trailer.
Yeah. All you saw mostly everybody. I don't think you saw. Did you see Ezra?
No, he was.
Nah.
He was the.
Oh, you're right.
hologram.
Yeah, they did. They little.
But but I was gonna say but it was a hologram though. But
it was him. So it's confirmed that all of the Rebels are going to be in Ahsoka, which is cool because I think Rebels, in my opinion, Rebels is the best animated Star Wars that what Star Wars has offered. In my opinion, like,
well, I would say
I think there's an argument there. I think I'm really partial to Clone Wars, but I can understand the argument against that. But I'm more partial to Clone Wars. But Rebels is amazing animated.
Rebels
series.
is strong.
it's the same. It's the same thing for like, there's no Rebels without Clone Wars. Just like there's no Justice League without Batman animated. So it's like you needed that foundation to get it, because by Rebels they figured it out. Because in Clone Wars it took them.
They got to the point a lot faster.
Yeah, in Clone Wars it took them about 5 seasons. Rebels by like episode 6.
Now,
when
we say this, there's one guiding force, and that's Filoni, who's brought all this and cleaned up all the BS that is happening. He's piecing together. So 100%.
Correct.
That's no knock to Clone Wars. Clone Wars, it took a minute, but they laid the foundation, laid that work, gave us some context in between the movies and whatnot.
Clone Wars was Filoni as well, right?
Yeah.
At least,
he started at minor role and then switched to major later on.
Yeah.
When he switched, that's when he became
100%
the man on Clone Wars, which happened around, I think, season 4 is when Clone Wars it was like a 180, completely 180, complete 180.
Yeah, because the first 2 episodes, the first 2 seasons was pretty much Anakin based. And then by like the end of the second season, they're like, oh wait, Ahsoka's way cooler.
Yes.
Well, Ahsoka, the clones,
Obi-Wan, everyone.
Like they started just spreading the wealth, where it's like Anakin became, and it worked, where he became somebody that was there, that existed, who on occasion he would have episodes that were focused on him, but it wasn't the entire time. Wasn't Anakin, different people pronouncing his name differently.
So like Filoni's brought all this together. He's cleaning up a lot of stuff, and I feel like the future of Mandalorian and this whole story of Star Wars has left itself open to other news stories, which I like to hear. I'm actually still interested in the whole Mandalore world, and the different.
Oh man, did you never play Nice
yes,
of the
I have.
Old
I know the story in that game, but like I want to see it come to fruit now. No,
originally I thought that's where they were. What they originally, when they announced the Mandalorian, I was like, oh cool, it's gonna be set 1,000 years before Luke Skywalker, and it's going to be about the Mandalore at its height, and we're going to see the actual Mandalore, who is the leader of the Mandalorians.
Okay, well, I will say this. Side note.
Thinking.
This is wishful thinking. If they did that story Game of Thrones style, we might be cooking with something.
Don't threaten us with a good time. Don't threaten us with a good time.
Think about it. We're going to talk about 1,000 years when Mandalorian was at his height, and we get the Game of Thrones action and all of that dialogue and action.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna go down.
Like,
but that would be
blasphemy because it has to be on HBO. Disney's not about to give us that type of.
And they're not gonna ever give up any rights to Star Wars to anybody. That's not them. At best, we can get that show produced through Hulu or like FX or something, because Disney owns those. But I mean, I agree. I think that's what we've been wanting, is for them to move the storytelling, the live action or animated storytelling, to the old Republic, like that era where there was an actual Sith Empire, where there was an actual the Mandalorian Empire, like the days of Revan and Malik and like all of them. Like, that was when it
look
was,
at you get giddy just talk about it.
I know, because I was like, that's what we want to see. We want to see that stuff. Those were the true badass Force users. Like, those were the great stories.
And I think that's the thing where it's like, you know, as good as The Mandalorian is, because we've all had some touch points at the other lore of Star Wars over the last 20, 25 years, 30 years now at this point, we know where they could go. And so I think it's, you know, it's interesting because isn't on May the 4th they're doing a re-release of Return of the Jedi? That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was funny because when I was traveling, I was talking to one of my friends, he's our age group, and he was just like, he's talking to like a 20-year-old about Star Wars and Return of the Jedi, and he was talking about, he's like, man, I just missed like the old, he's like, I missed the old song at the end of the movie.
Right, yeah.
He's like, that's what I miss. He's like, I just want to watch the original Return of the Jedi in its old form without all the extras, and then the kid, quote unquote, in his 20s is like, what do you mean old version?
Yeah,
because for him, he'd only seen it in the theaters with the remastered,
and which a lot of Star Wars fans still have not forgiven George Lucas for that. Because he basically was like, look, I want it to look like this, and all that other old stuff, I don't care how you feel about it, it's gone. And
so a friend of mine, quick aside, a friend of mine who never watched the new ones, you know, he watches them all like once every bunch of years, like every year. And so out of the blue, I got a text message at like 2:00 in the morning. He was like, yo, why are the movies different? And I was like, well, that's a long story. But the short version is George Lucas felt like he didn't finish them, and that was his finished idea. And he was like, but they changed the music for the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi. What the hell for? He's just, you know, what's this thing with him? So he's watching the end as he's talking to me, and he's like texting at the same time. So what? Wait, where are they? What is this? What is this statue? Is that supposed to be the Emperor's statue falling down? What is this?
That is in there, and you know what? He put that in there after they did the whole Saddam Hussein thing. And that's why he was like, what? When was there a scene on Coruscant?
So whack, dude.
Where is this?
And so
he added a whole nother extra 30 minutes to the end of the Return of the Jedi, just to add in the stuff from the prequels that he had recently done.
It was quite painful walking someone through it this much later who had never seen any of that stuff. I was like, well, bro.
And you know what else he added in there real quick, which I hated, was the Darth Vader audio of him going, no. In fact, if you listen to it, it's not just no. He goes, he looks at
it's his
like
Padme
hitting him with the lightning, and he goes,
it's a version of his Padme no.
And then he goes, no. And then he goes back, dude. He's literally chopped up from the Padme.
I just want to know, like, who in his circle is just saying yes to all these ideas?
No one's
no one can say no.
No one says yes or no. So this is third hand that I hear this, but someone that I used to work for employed an editor who worked on Phantom Menace, And basically, his experience of working for George Lucas was, you realize just how much he builds the story in the edit room. Like, he shoots all the different parts and shoots what he wrote, but he really builds the story in the edit. And so he thought as an editor that he would be able to, yo, this is the dream of a lifetime. I'm going to be able to tell George Lucas what what shot I think should land where, and, just sort of advise. And he was basically like, nah, I was just a process server. Like, I almost got canned because I suggested you might want to use this angle instead of that because that. Editor brain. Like, and so D'Angelo, as a producer, you can attest to this. Your editor will sometimes see things that you don't. And so they're there to sort of, they're there first to be a process server for your vision. Yes, as the writer and producer, but also they're there to sort of suggest different aesthetics that a shot change or an angle change can give you.
Yeah.
Placing something before something, placing something.
It should be a collaboration.
They're there to collaborate, not if your name is George Lucas. You are there as a process server to do what he tells you to do because he is not an editor. That is it. No one tells him no. You do not.
And the
So
other,
don't tell him
the
no,
other
and
aspect of it
don't
too.
tell him we can't do that. And the reason
Figure it
why
out.
is because they kind of set the precedent. Like, we don't have the technology to do that. Well, we should build it. Photoshop.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can't change the edit this way and that way. Well, you know what? We should be able to. Let's build it. Avid. It's just everything that he needed to do the things that they said he couldn't do, they built for him. So no one ever tells him no, because he is proven, whether it had to be invented or he just figured it out or his team figured it out. No one tells him no because they always find a way to do it. And if they don't have the way to do it, they invent it.
And basically,
and that's a testament to Long Do. Like, he always had the money to do whatever well, not always. After the first film, he always had the money to do whatever he wanted to do.
Yeah, and that's because he owned the rights to Star Wars.
Yep,
I'm pretty sure outright from the very beginning.
No, they signed the rights to him because they didn't want to give him more after the first one. They were like, lightning's gonna stop, not gonna strike twice. But yeah, if you want to do a second one, you could do a second one. And so when he looked at the deal, he was like, this is not enough money. Like, I just made you the greatest, like the highest grossing film of all time in all of Hollywood history. How are you giving me this paltry deal? And they were like, well, what do you want? He was like, all right, well, F it. Just sign over the Star Wars name. They were like, okay, sure. And that's how he got ownership of Star Wars. Yeah. And so all the merchandising, all the everything, I'm sure that executive got fired.
Oh yeah,
yeah. The other
it just wasn't as. I mean, it was, again, Star Wars at that time was still considered a very niche thing. Like, it wasn't considered something that was. It wasn't even close to what it is today. Yeah. So it was easier for that exec to be like, yeah, whatever, like, that's not going anywhere. Like, they probably had seen a million of those.
But when Empire Strikes Back surpassed the original Star Wars,
then he felt.
I'm sure everybody on the board was like looking at that dude like, "What are you doing? What did you do?"
Yeah, they Wolfram and Hart, angel style Wolfram and Hart sacrificed him. Like,
oh dog,
like he was sacrificed on had to give it all up because
well, the other aspect of it too is people forget that when Disney bought Fox, they finally got the complete rights of Star Wars because Fox had the distribution. And so part of the reason why they did the re-release with the special effects is because they didn't have the rights to actually release it as the original form. So that's why they added in all that. Besides George wanting to do it, that's why they did it. And then by buying out Fox, because a lot of people thought people were buying Fox to get X-Men back and Fantastic Four, which is true, but they really wanted those original distribution rights. So now they have, like, literally now Disney owns all,
they own everything,
100%, which is crazy.
But that deal was amazing for George, though. Like, come on now,
Hey man, it's
Mhm.
the original franchise. You know, everyone it keeps that model, especially when it comes to advertising. So now going forward, what do we want to see? Because the next thing we're gonna get is Ahsoka. We got Thrawn. We've already got it confirmed. We got Rebels. Folks has already got confirmed. So what do we want to see? I mean, I think I really think this is almost like, I don't want to say this is gonna be Mando 3.5 because I think it's gonna be its own thing, but it'll have a lot of the trappings that Mando's kind of set up in terms of this world of where they're at time wise. So I'm actually excited for Ahsoka to kind of see where they're going to go with it.
I'm excited because Ahsoka's a great character. Filoni created the character and he's writing every episode. So I think that makes me happy. I usually don't like that, but Dave Filoni knows what he's doing with this world and he's proven that. So I'm looking forward to those episodes. I think it can exist on its own. I think it will feel unavoidably like Rebels live action, just because same characters, but it'll have its different feel because this is 20, 30, no, almost 40 years after those events, if I'm not mistaken, because Rebels is taking place during or in the backdrop of the rebellion, right? Like right.
Yep.
So
Yep.
So it's 30. Mando is 30 years. Oh no, Mando is several years after, like 10 years, I think, after the return.
I think it's like 5 years after Return.
5 years after Return of the Jedi. So by now it's about, well, I don't know how time works in Star Wars. It ain't even time to go there.
Might even a question you should ask.
But we know that the sequel series, so Force Awakens, by the time we get to that point, is 30 years after well, in real life, 30 years it actually did pass. But in the story, they also, I think, acknowledge 30 years or something like that having passed since the fall of the Empire. So they got a lot of room to do a lot of things. What will come out of that? Who knows? I mean, I don't particularly care because I don't want to be in this point in time in Star Wars. I would rather be 1,000 years before. And it doesn't matter if it's Ahsoka, Mando, or any of them. As I've said before, you strip all of that away. Where are we still? In the Skywalker legacy timeline era, so it'll be great to see the show succeed, be good. I want it to be good, but I'm not really looking forward to anything that's coming because it's all except Alkalite. And that's that again, what I want, which is a Star Wars outside of the Skywalker era. No reference to Skywalker.
Yeah.
Sidious hasn't been born yet. Darth Vader hasn't been born. They don't exist yet. That's what I want.
Yep.
And
I mean, and even like that's why, as Cam was saying too, like Andor was so dope because like you didn't hear a Skywalker Vader nothing. You just it was just, this is Andor. This is regular people that take out the trash.
Right. And that worked.
I mean, working in the mines, just normal people having to figure this whole thing out in this Empire situation and what that means. I think that's part of the thing that made Andor good, because we've been saying this forever that, like you said, take it out of the Skywalker paradigm and we'll be happy, because then it's a huge ass galaxy.
Right. And even Andor didn't go far enough for me, because again, we're still dealing with the Empire. We're still dealing with, we still got Bail Organa somewhere lurking around, and we still got all of the rebellion leaders, populating the world. So again, I'm looking at total distance from all of that. Like, again, they don't even exist because they can't exist because it's 1,000 years before they were even born. Whatever 1,000 years means in Star Wars, that could be just a day. I don't know. I haven't figured out how time works in Star Wars. I don't know how it works. I don't know how it works.
I will say that is the safest way to get us away from the Skywalker saga, is to do a storyline before them. However, I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
really read up
before.
on the Star Wars legacy post Skywalker, and do they have references to the Skywalker saga? But I'm also interested in hearing or watching what happens after all of this stuff. Like, what are the new stories?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a story. Actually, Cam, you put me onto it. The one with the what the hell is Luke's
No, see,
grandson, whatever the hell.
that's still Skywalker.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
still
the
Skywalker.
Yeah.
Well, only loosely, because this guy is radically different. Like he's not a do-gooder. He's a smuggler.
I want
like
no
it,
family members. I don't
What's
want no
his name?
bloodline.
Is his last name Skywalker?
Yeah, that's
unfortunately,
fine.
yes.
Man, he's connected. I think
Well,
he ought to
so
be.
I'll say this. I will say this. And Cam, you can back me up on this. The one saving grace of that comic book series is he's only Skywalker in name, and it goes as far, like all of the characters, the entire universe is as far away as you could make it from where we are right now in the story, where we seem to be stuck in the story. He's very different. The structure of the government is different. If I remember correctly, there's an actual Jedi Knight that's Chancellor. It's a whole thing. Like the Jedi are in large numbers again.
Yeah, that was the last. I think that was the last story that Dark Horse had the IP right before
Disney, right? Yeah,
Disney.
said Disney.
Yeah, so
right. That wasn't bad, right?
Yeah, it was actually pretty good. And what he did, he was more of a gray Jedi, basically. So basically, the quick story is, he was a Padawan, blah blah blah. Everybody gets killed. He gets picked up by some pirates, and then he just is a pirate. And then he uses a drug to actually suppress his force powers, because he didn't want Luke talking to him all day.
Okay,
so he's basically a junkie for like.
Pause.
So he's trying to avoid Force Ghost Luke.
Luke Skywalker is the hook for casual fans. Unless the character's name is Booby Pagoda from Platoon or whatever, from whatever land, I don't want to hear any connection to the Skywalker saga, whether it be Ghost. I need a whole different name. A whole different.
Josh, you had me going for
Cam
a second.
saying, he's talking to Luke.
Cam was like, he uses drugs to keep.
It is extraordinarily. So he shows up. So Luke shows up. Force Ghost Luke shows up the way that Obi-Wan Force Ghost shows up. He shows up for like a couple seconds, like, yo, you screwing up, right? Just let you know. All right, later. Like, he doesn't. Again, back me up, Cam. He does not stick around. He's not a major pillar in the story.
But they are both correct. It still has a tie to it. And I think it goes back to, like you said, it goes back to trying to bring in that casual fan, right? Like, I would say the separation of this is like the story is actually really good, and it does expand on some stuff. And it takes the main bad is from one of the books, actually. I forgot what it was. One of the ones with, it was like the one of the infested alien thing. I totally forgot that whole Darth Great. Yeah. So it is a good story and that stuff. The one that will that's even more dumb is that they did, because this lasted, I think, three series. I think it was 3 books, or
volumes,
like 3 full volumes, broken up over like 6 or whatever. But and I thought that was a pretty good one. The dumb one I thought they did was they tried to do a whole it's Han and Leia's great granddaughter or something. I'm talking about like
first
that.
Volume,
and it was just
a good 2 volumes.
And so really I think, and so I think the pre-Disney era, we all like the stuff that didn't involve Skywalker, because they just did so much interesting shit with it, and it was dope. Post Disney era, the best stuff still revolves around Skywalker. I think that's
so. Like, what I mean by not Skywalker is Darth Bane trilogy does not involve any Skywalker by name, in spirit, nothing.
You don't hear it.
I get you. Not exist. That's what I'm saying. And I think we haven't had that yet. Like, that story did sound interesting, and I'll probably look that up. But
just only read the first volume, though, because you're gonna be pissed off by the time you get to 2 and 3.
And I get it. Luke is a brand. I mean, the Skywalkers are the established brand of the premier brand of protagonist brand of Star Wars. It's like, you don't have, you probably could, but when you think of just Game of Thrones, you think of Starks or Targaryens, right? So it's like you
Those
could
are attached brands, yeah,
right. Like you can probably drop the viewer audience in any part of their 1,000-year history, and you won't get the same type of Targaryen that you got 100, 200 years before.
right.
And if Star Wars had established that about the Skywalkers, then that would have been a little bit then okay. But you don't have any establishment of Skywalkers other than Luke and Anakin, and obviously in the expanded universe stuff, they're kids, but Disney struck all that away or compliant.
Yeah,
Mine must
and
be
and
stupid
also
now.
like that's and even like a great example of how they could have done that is when they were doing the whole Star Wars 1515 defunct video game, and it was interesting because my friends that were on it, they were like, well, I was like, yeah, so what was the initial like assignment? They're like, yo, we want you to take any established race in the Star Wars galaxy and make them a bounty hunter, and I was like, that's freaking amazing. Because that's it was they're like they specifically said this game and the world that they're going to be inhabiting has no Sith and no Jedi. It is nothing but ruthless rogues, bounty hunters in every single race. So there was there's a little Yoda race, there's a little Ewok bounty hunter. There was like, and so that's where the I don't want to call him a Black Wookiee, but
At the end of the day,
but that's where his design came from, essentially, before they put him into the books. But you're 100% correct, because they keep us in this like Skywalker's chokehold. It really is sad because when Dark Horse had the IP, they did a lot of books that just didn't have anything connection to do with Star Wars, and it was good. The whole Crimson Knights series, the Knight Errant series, or whatever. Like they really did stuff where they were just like, yo, here's a Jedi or a Sith or a Force user in this situation in this galaxy, and it was always interesting, no matter, and it made it good for the writers because the writer that was your assignment. Like, yo, pick a Force user. Pick a Force user. Give me some.
Didn't
pitches.
they do like a Dark Horse? They did like a alternate thing where there was a Darth Vader, but he wasn't Sith Lord Darth Vader. His name was Darth Vader, and
I think Marvel did that.
No, I think it was Dark Horse.
No, I think it was Dark. I think it was Dark Horse, but I forgot. I didn't read that story. I remember.
There's a story where Luke actually redeems Vader. They survive overthrowing the Emperor, and instead of wearing black armor, he wears white armor. And I forget what he goes around the galaxy doing, but he's not just.
No. This isn't what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'll find it out and tell you guys. That sounds interesting, but that's not what I'm referring, because this one real wore black. And I don't think Luke was his son. That continuity was all different. Like I said,
you know what you're talking about.
A true alternate thing.
Yep.
But I think you're right though. I think, as much as we like the Mandalorian and like you said, and Andor and these things, it's like it's still stuck in this paradigm that we can't get out of. And I think Ahsoka is like one of the ones that we're really excited to see within that, because even in the Disney books, which they actually did some good stuff where they allowed the writers to create new characters, but you're still in the same era. Like you're stuck. Like that's the other thing too. They did a couple like Poe Dameron books, and they did a couple other like stuff off the newer series, but nothing really stuck. All the most interesting stuff was still either Vader related or Skywalker related at that point. And I think that's part of it is fear to get out of that, and to like because I think for Dark Horse, when Dark Horse got to carry the legacy of Star Wars in between all the big films, so they could have a lot of fun, and it's marginally successful, but they didn't really have to worry about having to carry a franchise.
Right. To answer your question, where they go from here, I think they're going to continue to use Mando. What I think they're going to do is do what they've been doing, which is to use Mando as like a touchstone, and just have that be like the offshoot for the jump off point for a bunch of different things that potentially have nothing to do with the Skywalkers. I mean, it's all. I mean, in 3 seasons, you got 2 episodes that had Luke in it. I think you're doing pretty okay. if everything has a touchstone, if everything has a tether to the Skywalker.
Mandalorian. Then they was it season 2? They
Mhm.
brought in Luke. Didn't he?
Season 2.
Yep.
Didn't need no. I
Yep.
agree.
Nope. Didn't need him at all.
Did not need it. You could have had that be any
At
other
all.
Jedi Knight. 100%. I agree. Like at that point,
Yeah.
you can assume that there are other Jedi Knights that he's found. You could a Padawan off on his own. You could tell a whole story just on
And
whoever
the,
showed
the
up.
fact that Grogu didn't even kick you with Luke.
Word.
Yeah,
He was like,
Yeah,
you
so
I know you
weird.
offering me this this lightsaber thing here, but I'd rather just chill with my man.
Yeah, and like they could have just had it been Ahsoka, and we would have been fine with that. I looked it up real quick. The Dark Horse era Star Wars, 759 issues between 1991 and
And there were some
2014.
goodies in there for sure. Yes.
So in the one I shared the character profile in the chat, but the one I was talking about was called The Star Wars, and it was a
The original George script.
and it was supposed to be it was supposed to be based on his original script that didn't
Yep.
So this Darth Vader isn't a Force user. He is the leader, the ruler of the Galactic Empire and all this stuff. But
I haven't read that in a long time. I forgot about that. It was actually super interesting because it was Luke was a little bit older. Like, yeah, it was interesting. I don't know if I liked all of it, but it was like something completely different. And
yeah, I didn't really like
bit,
it either. I didn't. Well, I know how I felt, but you're right. It was different.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so then take it to the whole before we talk about this forever. What's your final word on Mando? I love how every time we talk about Mando, we go into a big Star Wars conversation instead.
Can't be helped.
Floodgate.
Can't be helped. But yeah, so give me your best moment and your worst moment for Mando as we're heading out. And we'll start with D'Angelo.
We're talking about this season or the whole series?
Yeah, for this season.
Well, I'll start with the worst moment. We talked about it earlier. The worst moment was that episode 3, the whole episode, because it just doesn't bridge the gap of the overarching story, and it just felt like Josh pointed out, this could have been 2 or 3 scenes spread out over those 8 episodes that didn't take away from the main arc. The best thing to me were the episodes directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, and the 2 directed by Rick. Help me out with his last name. Fumiyao. Yes,
Fumiyao. Yeah,
that dude is probably one of the best TV directors in the game right now.
Yeah.
I mean, the way he shoots those sequences and especially the last fight on Mandalore was just amazing. I mean, it had you the whole time. It never did it feel like it always felt like the space was as big as it needed to be or as small as it needed to be. It never felt like, oh, this is like they should, like they're not supposed to be there. Like even when when they're fighting in the air, the Mandalorians versus the Dark Troopers. Mm-hmm. Like, come on, man. Like that was some grade A, like blocking, just great. So yeah. The best thing were definitely those episodes, the finale and the penultimate episode, and also the episode directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. And the worst thing was episode 3, which was trying to tell that storyline in that full episode with the Imperial spy and all that crap. That was, to me, just.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would say for me, I would say finale because just on the sheer scale and just kind of bringing it all home. And then I would say the worst thing is all the fans making fun of Lizzo being on the show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's pretty bad.
Like
yeah.
It just like I don't want to defend Lizzo. It's not whatever's, but it's just stupid.
So,
like yo, man.
So here's the thing about Lizzo.
Like
I'll be sure with this. I didn't have a problem with her or Jack Black. I had an issue with both of them because they take up so much of the energy in that room. So like,
Oxygen.
it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that's true.
if
That's
someone
very
would
true.
have
That's
told me
very
that
true.
wasn't Lizzo, I probably wouldn't have recognized her. But the fact that Jack Black
Yeah.
and her in there, that's just too much. That just takes away from Star Wars.
I didn't recognize her at
I didn't
first.
recognize her at all. And so for me, it didn't take
I
anything
didn't.
away
I
from
didn't know
it.
until after.
I knew she was
Yeah.
somebody that I had seen before. That was probably something told me that she was some pop culture figure. Just because the way they blocked her when they introduced her, like it was one of those things where the camera lit is like, you know,
Spotlight.
this is she's
It's like
you
Ed
know this
Sheeran
person.
in Game of Thrones.
You
Like,
don't know.
Yeah.
why is this on minstrel?
Yeah,
Hell
exactly.
alone. Who is this random dude with
Exactly.
orange hair?
Sing a song to the church.
The whole the camera is on him, like, so it's the point where it's supposed to be Arya's POV, but it's like, why are we looking at him so much for? We don't care about him.
Yeah.
She's probably gonna kill him. Why didn't she kill him?
Yep. Josh, what's your best and worst?
I personally think Lizzo's was, I would say the finale and the Lizzo thing. And the Lizzo thing, I think I went on about that in a previous, I think in my final word, the last or time before last, when it aired. But the girl is, she's like ecstatic because her pops introduced her to Star Wars. It was a big thing for him, and Star Wars fans are the worst. It's just so amazing how bad they are. And then come to find out, the reason why she was so ecstatic about, the reason she did it and the reason she was so ecstatic about it is because her dad introduced her to Star Wars, and while she isn't, he was a huge fan. So, just let it rock, man. I think that's how I ended it the last time I brought this up. Worst, again, like D'Angelo said, worst would be probably episode 3. Like I said before, it could have been spread out. It could have been sprinkled across the entire season where they were going, were going with that doctor and what they were doing. The finale, phenomenal. Oh my God. Woo. The last couple of episodes, honestly, like pretty much as a matter of fact, I'll expand that to say just about any episode where the Mandalorians were front and center, which was most of the season. I think on a whole, they did a really good job. And I think Filoni is doing a great job with, and Favreau, who wrote, I think, almost every episode this season.
Every other.
Yeah.
There were
wow.
a few other names that popped up for some.
But yeah, most of the season.
Some of the stuff he wrote wasn't always great, but he definitely was good at, like Josh said, keeping it all together.
Yeah, man. And I liked that the Mandalorians actually got one, because their whole history, at least as far as Filoni has told it, is just so terribly tragic. Like it's just all terrible things all the time. And so, for them, for it to swing back around and for them to reclaim their home world, that was kind of huge. I love that. I love because they, at this point, they make you feel for these characters. They make you care. But this is a testament to how much they've made you care about these characters, that you actually care whether or not they get a happy ending for once.
One of the great, to add on to that is, and they talked about this, and I think that's what's great about Grogu as a character, is the lengthy history and relationship between the Jedi and the Mandalorians. And how there have been Mandalorians who became full-blown Jedis and Jedi who, got accepted into Mandalorian culture. In fact, Revan was one of them, if I'm not mistaken.
In
fact, Revan, if I'm not mistaken, unless they changed it, he was even the ruler of Mandalore at one point. If I'm not mistaken, he was either one of the...
It's his sword, right? Or he was the one that had the sword at one point?
The Darksaber was his. No.
He didn't invent it. It was another man.
Somebody before him. Yeah.
It was the ancestor of the big guy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
Ancestor who was both a Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was his ancestor was both a Mandalorian and a Jedi, and he created the Darksaber. And so I recently read this. That's why I know this. But that was great. I like that they did that, because there's so much connection between those two cultures within the fictional world of Star Wars. So it was good to and that's why I like. Oh, and I was telling Josh, they set up a great Chekhov's gun, in that now we will see Mandalorian Jedi lightsaber and blaster swinging Grogu at some point, because they've
Yes.
already
Yes.
they've already
Yes.
Set it up. Yep.
yes we will see that, because they've already thrown it out there, and also
they set it up.
the second CG or Chekhov's gun is he will speak eventually.
Mhm.
He say those words,
Yeah.
because they made the mention that he can't be until he's able to speak the creed. So
Right.
I like that they reset things. They got us out of the battle with Moff Gideon,
I know.
but they gave us a lot of things to look forward to.
To look forward
Mando
to.
serving as the pseudo, being somewhat a part of the law enforcement on what's the planet name? Grief's planet. What's it?
Oh, Carl Weathers
I
from planet.
I always forget the name of the planet.
I just call him Action Jackson.
Well, his name
Jackson World.
Karga is Grief Karga. I was thinking about
Yeah.
the name.
Is it Navarro?
Oh, the world that he's in.
Navarro, yes. And so he's got his little property on Navarro, and obviously he's going to be going after those Imperial, which I thought that was great. That's a great setup, because then that to me is the through line for the crossover, because there's going to be a crossover between Ahsoka and Mando. It's already happened.
Yeah.
But now with both of their shows, they're building towards that eventual crossover where both of them have to face against Thrawn and his forces.
Yeah.
So
that'll be some dope shit too. Cam,
I'll
what's
keep
your
it quick and petty.
what's your goods and bads?
The MacGuffin of the Darksaber. I thought that was cool, because it didn't really mean much.
Mhm.
In the bad was the whole, I think it was, how many episodes is 8? Well, I think episode 7 where Paz Whistles goes out in a blaze of glory. So the idea of him staying back and not getting his crew dismantled by all those stormtroopers in Beskar was all for naught, because he took out the whole squad. If they'd have all went, they could have overpowered them. I didn't understand that, because only 3 high level
That's a good point.
Empire, I don't know what you call them, but the dudes in red took him out. He took out everybody with the Gatling.
All the
Praetorian Guard.
I'm like,
the Praetorian, which I didn't understand why they were
thought they were
there,
gonna get slaughtered.
Well, I was just saying they usually are only with Palps, so why were they there? But
that was weird. But
they're Imperial Guards, literally, like the Emperor's.
But my point was, if Paz took all of them out by himself, they should have just stayed and stood 10 toes down and fought the good fight. Again, this goes to my Star Wars don't think logically every time.
Yeah, I get that.
Thinking too much.
I mean, outside, like I said, I'm being petty. So like that was my small gripe. I mean, but those are the things that came to mind. There's probably a few others, but overall, it was cool. But I do like the fact that they just made that dark saber worthless, because it was broke.
Completely irrelevant. Yeah, no,
I did not like that. I didn't like that because that blade has a lot of history in the
I will admit, it does sound like it was a midichlorian type of thing that says, "Oh, midichlorians don't matter. This dark saber don't matter." However, I wasn't mad at that.
Well, midichlorians don't matter, and they shouldn't matter. But the dark saber was literally something that a Mandalorian Jedi person created to give to the Mandalorian
They've broken
culture,
the wheel,
so that they would
per se. They're changing it. They've broken the wheel and they're changing the culture of how they're doing things. I think it's symbolic of how the old ways that connected them are now changing. So like before, yeah,
I get that. I
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah.
just didn't like the
Okay.
act of destroying the blade in general. But
Yeah,
you're
me.
right. No,
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes
Yeah.
sense. That's a good point.
that's definitely a good point. The old way gone. Yeah.
Okay, I'm a cap it now because if we don't, we'll be here for the next another 2 hours. Rewriting the next
All right.
trilogy. But yep. But yeah, we all enjoy it. We're all waiting for Ahsoka next. I think that's gonna be our thing. Once again, thanks for rocking with us. And we'll see you guys later.
Yes. 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 Yes.